Before we get into this story, here's some important context. My name is Portico Globe. I know my name sounds weird, it's because it's some weird name from Africa. Anyways, I am a professional photographer and I saw an advertisement online about a man who would pay me $150 to take some pictures of him playing basketball. I agreed, not knowing what trouble he was going to get into. The guy's name was George Floyd, and when I first met him in person, I was shocked how big his nose and lips were. I didn't say anything, so we went to the park for his pictures. I was with George Floyd at a park taking some pictures when a woman with a hooked nose approached us. Her name was Shima Sheckelberg and offered George some fentanyl. George, being the naive individual he was, accepted and started consuming it. The look in his eyes as he took the fentanyl was one I'll never forget. I said to George, "I'm not here to watch you overdose on fentanyl, I'm here to take you picture." But he looked back at me like I was crazy. He had never been told to stop before, and that dumbass George Floyd's response was, "A man dat sure good, let get dat we taken dim pics later." Little did I know that I possessed information that George Floyd did not. I was aware that Sheckelberg was a fraud and that Jews have been known for scamming people throughout history. Sheckelberg had red hair, a clear indication of a fraudster. George Floyd, however, being the dumbass that he is, did not realize that the free fentanyl was a plot to get him to sign a contract. This was the new sharecropping contract made by the highest of Jews in the capital, a concept from the 1840s. Unfortunately, George Floyd's retarded ass could not read or write, so he signed the contract without understanding its contents. His signature resembled a penis, which Sheckelberg knew was not legal. However, as a Jew, she would find a way to get out of it due to the many Jewish individuals in our government. I looked up and saw Sheckelberg, who asked George Floyd, "Enjoying that fentanyl, monkey boy?" George Floyd consumed it like a barbaric monkey. One of the things you don't want to do is disturb George Floyd when he's on fentanyl. George Floyd looked up with red eyes, saying, "Man, come on, let a man be alone." George pulled a gun out of his pants, flashing his dick to many passers-by in the process. Sheckelberg remained silent after that until George Floyd finished the fentanyl, at which point she informed him that he was now enslaved by Shekel Incorporated due to his dumb ass signing the contract. Due to the lack of George Floyd mental capacity, he did not understand the implications of being enslaved, but after some discussion, he grasped that he was in a shitty situation. I decided to accompany George Floyd to the slave plantation, where I witnessed things I'll never forget. On the way, George Floyd and I discussed how we could escape, but he struggled to find the words due to his limited vocabulary. He mostly wanted to talk about how good the fentanyl he had taken was and how he'd use his next welfare check to get more. I found it hard to believe how retarded George Floyd could be. We eventually arrived at the plantation, where George Floyd was separated from us. I was taken to a room with a nice dinner table and luxurious meals served by George Floyd's cousin, Taisha Floyd. David Sheckelberg greeted me at the entrance, saying, "Hello. Welcome to Sheckelberg Plantation." I was amused by the white columns and luxurious setting. As I looked at David Sheckelberg, all I saw was a Jew with a hooked nose. I said hello to maintain a low profile, knowing that when the time came, George Floyd would steal all the reactants underground, which they did not know I knew. They were unaware that George Floyd was addicted to fentanyl and could not function without it for more than 2 hours. I glanced at my watch and saw that it was 4 minutes away from the 2-hour mark when George Floyd would start to go into withdrawal. I went to the bathroom to retrieve fentanyl pills from my briefcase. The difficult part was finding George Floyd. As I emerged from the bathroom, I saw George Floyd struggling to stand, his eyes wide with panic. David Sheckelberg and his associates looked at him with a mixture of amusement and concern. George Floyd's cousin, Taisha Floyd, rushed to his side, trying to calm him down. "George, what's wrong, man?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. George Floyd tried to speak, but his words were slurred and barely intelligible. I quickly approached him, holding out a hand with the fentanyl pills. "George, take these," I urged, hoping to alleviate his symptoms before it was too late. Sheckelberg eyed me suspiciously, but I didn't care. I was determined to help George Floyd, even if it meant disobeying the rules of the plantation. As George Floyd took the pills, his breathing steadied, and his eyes began to focus. I could see the relief washing over his face as he looked at me, a faint smile forming on his lips. "You're a good man, my friend," he said, his voice still hoarse from the fentanyl withdrawal. I smiled back at him, knowing that our time was limited. We needed to find a way to escape the plantation before it was too late. Over the next few days, George Floyd and I hatched a plan to tunnel our way out of the plantation. We worked tirelessly, using our hands to dig into the soft earth beneath our feet. It was slow and arduous work, but we were determined to be free. As we dug, we talked about our lives before the plantation. George Floyd told me stories about his childhood, his family, and the struggles he faced growing up. I shared my own experiences, the ups and downs of my life, and the mistakes I'd made along the way. We became closer, bound together by our shared experiences and our determination to escape the plantation. And finally, after what felt like an eternity, we saw a glimmer of light ahead. We had reached the surface. With renewed hope, we crawled through the tunnel, our hearts pounding with excitement and fear. We emerged into the bright sunlight, gasping for air as we took in the world beyond the plantation. We looked at each other, knowing that we had accomplished something incredible. We were free, and nothing could ever take that away from us. Together, we walked away from the plantation, leaving behind the horrors we had endured. As we walked, we talked about our future, about the life we would build together. But George suddenly had a different change of heart. He wanted to come back and free the rest of them. Floyd went back on his own, and I watched from the distance as the plantation owner approaches him. Floyd seizes the opportunity to use his past experiences in martial arts to subdue Shackelberg and his associates. With a mixture of strength and cunning, Floyd disables and kills the Shackelbergs, finally breaking free from the chains of slavery. The plantation is thrown into chaos as news of the killing spreads, and Floyd uses this as an opportunity to rally the other slaves and lead them to freedom.